Is Fortnite removing the Sentinel Pump Shotgun in what players is calling the worst update of all time? I also want to talk about Peterbot's last dance with his trio absolutely decimating NA, and over on EU we had Veno, Vico, Flixie bring it back with their new drop spot. We also have some new team swaps and drop spots to talk about involving some of the biggest teams in the world. So there's a lot to talk about. Let's jump into it. All right, we're kicking off a video not talking about Peterbot. Yet, we need to talk about what is going on with this week's update, why everyone's saying it could completely kill this season. Now, I don't think that's being too dramatic if the changes go through. So, leakers have pointed out that this post got made in the news tab of Fortnite. So it actually went into Fortnite. This isn't just something they data mined. It wasn't for some like shady website. This was actually in Fortnite. Battle Royale loot update. The Hollow Twister Assault Rifle and Sentinel Pump Shotgun have been vaulted. The Twin Mag Assault Rifle, Scope Burst SMG, and Infiltrator Pump Shotgun have been unvaulted. Medium ammo spawn rate has been increased. Now, a lot of leakers have said that this was meant to come out with this week's update. And if you need to read that again, that is very concerning. We have the Hollow Twister AR being vaulted and replaced with the Twin Mag AR, pretty much one of the only stronger assault rifles in the game, then the Hollow Twister, which is a little bit concerning, but not as concerning as the Sentinel Pump Shotgun being vaulted and them adding the Infiltrator Pump Shotgun. That is what has scared the most amount of people, because we've gone from having an incredibly strong pump that most people think is balanced. Yeah, it does a lot of structure damage, but it has 4 shots. Overall, Sentinel Pump, an all-round good pump, strong, but not too OP, to what is one of the worst pump shotguns we've ever had amongst 3 of the other worst shotguns we've ever had. So the shotgun meta pool would be Infiltrator Pump Shotgun. That's your hard-hitting, slow fire rate shotgun, despite it not really being that. Then you have the auto shotgun, the twin fire auto shotgun, kind of like attack but worse. Then the outlaw shotgun, which is kind of a close range shotgun, hits really hard if you're point blank, but really doesn't have the range on it to be that skillful. As soon as you're versing a good player who plays piece control and distance, there's not much you can do. And then the pump and dump. Those are your 4 shotguns. This has people very, very concerned. They're turning what is a very beloved season right now, especially in competitive, to what could be a terrible meta. And then combining that with an even stronger assault rifle. What I can imagine the meta will be in competitive if these changes go through is pros will carry a Twin Mag AR as their main weapon and then a collateral assault rifle as their follow-up. They will not carry shotguns, a lot of them. We'll be going back to early chapter 3, like MK combat SMG meta. That's how bad I think it's going to be, which has a lot of people obviously very concerned. Now, if you're as concerned as I am seeing all of this, there is a ray of hope. There's a lot of people saying that there is an update coming out on April Fools, and this could have been teasing that update. So we currently have an update coming out this week, a balance update, but then we have a content update the week after, which lines up with April Fools. So a lot of us are hoping this was meant to maybe go live in a few days during that update to tease a future update, let us all freak out and, it's April Fools. I know this might be a lot of us that we're coping a lot here. A lot of us are trying to just hope that something is happening here that isn't. I have to believe this isn't true. I don't know why Fortnite would look at the stats and say, okay, cool, this shotgun's used like 90% of the time. This AR is used like 70% of the time. Let's get rid of both of them. Let's throw it all out there. Like, I just don't think Fortnite's going to do that. It's been a very, very long time since they've made major meta changes mid-season. Not just like adding a mobility or adding an item or vaulting an item, taking out the main AR, the main shotgun, and replacing them, despite no one complaining about the current weapon. So it seems a little bit odd. I have to hope Fortnite's not going to do this because they've cooked up some banger metas at the moment. Whether you like high mobility or low mobility, maybe you're not enjoying this season as much. I'm not even going to talk about ranked in pubs. I know, sticky grenade launcher, getting baseball batted. I'm talking about purely competitive right now. It is a good season, and I really, really hope these updates are a joke. A lot of the leakers saying, take this with a grain of salt. It might not happen. It's not guaranteed. There's not anything changing in the game files, but this did go into the news tab, which is a little bit scary. It is worth mentioning one last thing as well. Most of these weapons are actually in reload right now. They're in the reload loot pool. And I know this says Battle Royale loot update, but usually Fortnite likes to have the reload loot pool and the Battle Royale loot pool quite different. They might share some guns here and there, but most of the time the metas are completely different between the two, which is very smart because some players might particularly like one assault rifle or one shotgun. They want to play with it. They play with that game mode to use it. Or there might be a shotgun they really dislike, so they don't play that game mode to avoid it. Rather than just quitting the game, they have something else to spice it up. So I have to imagine that this is a mistake or it's some kind of April Fool's or something. Again, I could just be hoping, but there's a lot of points, there's a lot of signs pointing to the fact that it is a mistake and we aren't getting these changes. All right, let's talk about our Div 1 Cup finals. Let's talk about Peterbot now winning 11 Trio Cash Cup finals in a row, and this was the last dance. This was Peterbot, Cold, and Pollo's last time playing together as a trio before they now split up and go back to their original trio. So was a little bit sad, and especially when Cold, Pete, and Pollo put on a performance like they just did. 514 points in 6 matches. And you got to remember, their 6th match, they were completely trolling. And I'm not just saying that trying to, like, you know, cope. Oh, they got 18 place. That means they must have been messing around. No, Peterbot was streaming it with no delay. And if you watch their gameplay, they were completely messing around. They were fighting over who gets to pick up the mythic pump, you know, baseball batting each other off mountains. Like, they were fully trolling. It's still got an 11 kill 18s, but their other games up until that point were absurd. 13 kill 4th, 19 kill 2nd, 16 kill 2nd, 12 kill 6th, 16 kill 1st. They didn't have a single game where they didn't get at least double-digit elims, even in their 18th place game. Just absurd performance. I know a lot of people are now sad to see the fact that we aren't going to see this trio play together again. It pretty much makes that we're not going to see Peterbot and Pollo play together on Central, at least until pretty much after Globals, like 6 months away. Yeah, they might play a cash cup here and there for fun, like if, you know, maybe one of the other players is away, but I don't think so. I think we're going back. We're locked in now. Pete, Cold, and Ritual, and Aegis, Acorn, and Pollo are going to be playing separately going forward. So it was sad to see. It's worth pointing out, though, Aegis, Ritual, and Acorn did come in second as well. So our top 6 players, all switching trios, came first and second. Aegis, Ritual, and Acorn got 368 points in 6 matches, which seems like a terrible performance compared to 514, but they still beat out, you know, Bolt's team. They beat out Clicks. They beat out Booga's new trio. Aegis, Ritual, and Acorn were still playing really, really well. So I'm excited to see how these new trios go. It's going to be really, really hard for Ritual now next week. If Ritual, Cold, and Pollo don't put up, sorry, Peterbot, Ritual, and Cold, man, it's going to be hard to get used to that. If Peterbot's new trio with Ritual doesn't put up an insane performance, people are going to say, oh, Richie's terrible. This is why he sold their grands. Pollo is so much better. I really was kind of hoping that trio wouldn't have as strong of a performance in their last tournament together, so there wasn't even more pressure on Ritual to perform, but we'll see. Maybe Ritual will rise to the occasion, and next week they absolutely dominate. I don't know. Going through the rest of the leaderboard, I already talked about Aegis, Ritual, and Acorn. We have Rapid, Yapko, and Bolt in 3rd. That trio is back together at Flooded Frogs. They almost pulled it off. They were 2 points behind, getting a 13 elim first in their last game. If they could have got a 14 elim first, they would have come second. Then we had Clicks, Batman, Booga, and Iomzo. Yes, Clicks ended up in 4th place on the day that his icon skin released. They played really, really well. I'm not sure what happened to them, though. They just didn't get enough elims. You look at their match history, it's not bad at all. 5th, 9th, 9th, 2nd, 5th, 8th, with some decent elims. 2 of those games having 12 elims. So again, they didn't play terrible. Just compared to Pete, everyone's looking a little bit terrible. So they played really, really well overall. But then we had Booga, Threats, and Craze, a brand new trio in 5th place while contesting Vidil, Cooper, and Sphinx. Now, there was a little bit of beef here. There was a little bit of drama on the timeline. We had Vidil, Cooper, and Sphinx accusing Booga's team of DDoSing them. If you know what DDoSing is, it's a distributed denial of service. I believe that's what the wording is. Basically, you pretty much get someone's internet IP, you use a program, and you flood their internet with a bunch of crap to make them start lagging. So they started getting crazy packet loss, and in first game, they went down on spawn. Now, Booga, Threats, and Craze were quick to point out why. Like, why would we do this in a Div 1 finals? Like, if someone's going to do this to you, they're going to do it in grands or at least maybe later in the tournament. Why would we do it first game? We literally thought you guys just pulled off and ended up dropping on Acorn because we couldn't see you. Like, I don't think Booga's doing that. Booga's had a very long, illustrious career. I don't think he's going to risk that by DDoSing and basically hacking his opponent in a Div 1 game with his brand new trio that he's never played with before. So I think Booga, Threats, and Craze, in my opinion, are clear of that one. I love Cooper, Vidil, Sphinx. I think they were just super upset, and it just made sense to point the blame at the team that's contesting them. I don't know if they did actually get hacked. Their internet got reset, and they were fine going forward for all the other games, but it's worth pointing out in case you saw that on the timeline and didn't know what was going on. We then had Muzz, Curly, and Rise in 6th place. Kanata, G-Money, and Osid, who were doing really well at the start, kicked off with a 2nd and a 5th. Unfortunately, had a couple bad games in the middle, and then brought it back with a 10th and then a 10 elim 2nd. So a lot of, you know, good signs for a brand new trio. Vidil, Cooper, Sphinx, like I talked about, contested at Seaport City. They did manage to get a 1st, 2nd, and a 5th, but they did have 3 rough games, 2 of which going down on spawn to Booga. Then we had Shadow, Curve, and Tyler in 9th, and Taki, Ishu, and Vert in 10th. Moving on over to EU, we had it dominated by a new drop spot, but not a new trio. Vico, Veno, Flixie leaving Crime City after having it locked down for most of this season. They're having issues of being surprise con teams trying to take the train, basically proving that only Peterbot can have all of Crime City, the train, and everything around it. They went Mast Meadows, and I was interested to see how this went for them. A lot of people say Mast Meadows is actually not the second or best drop on the map. It's Lone Wolf Lair, but they made it work really, really well. They got 408 points, 6 matches, won 2 of them, and their first game was a shocker. If they didn't have such a bad first game, they could have been pushing like 500 points. Their first game was at 1 Elam 25th. I actually watched this in the replays. They took a fight a little bit to the east of Mars Meadows, right down to the corner of the map. They over-aggressed. Vico and Flixie went down early. Veno was stuck in a 1v3, got third party and went down. And after that, I thought, man, they've switched their drop spot after not doing the best at Crime City. Now they're struggling at Mars Meadows. Things are looking a bit rough. It was just one bad fight. From then on, they dominated. 9 Elam 5th, 9 Elam win, 11 Elam 5th, 7 Elam 3rd, and a 13 Elam win to bring it home. So they played absolutely phenomenally, making Mars Meadows look really, really so strong. Now, we did have Thomas, Uppel, and Panzer, who were dropping over at the fields to their north, point out they weren't even dropping at Mars Meadows some of the games. They actually triple dropped on the black market, got the loot, and then rotated south into Mars Meadows. That comfortable that no one was going to go in and try and take their loot while they weren't there. Pretty crazy to see. I think once Thomas HD pointed this out on Twitter, I think they were a little bit more careful to make sure they dropped on Mars Meadows. But Thomas's team obviously not too happy to have their black market, the main reason why they're dropping on the fields, taken from them, and then they get all of Mars Meadows. So they didn't play out that strategy every single game, but it is worth pointing out they kind of have that trick in their back pocket if they want to pull it out. We had Ping, Wox, and Malibuca in second place on 326, carried heavily by their 20 elimination win. A 120 point performance from Ping, Wox, and Malibuca. They're playing extremely well right now. They're utilizing a lot of the armored truck kind of rotates. They love getting the back of the truck and rotating deep in Storm. It's a really fun play style to watch. There's actually games where you see this team have multiple mythics in their hands quite frequently, actually, because of how much they play for these trucks. Then we had Seti, Hari, and Cammy, the Poles, who finally got Brutal Boxcars uncontested and came in third on 305. Really consistent placements for them. 8th, 9th, 5th, 4th, 4th, 2nd. Again, just missing the Elams, which scares me a little bit for grand finals when Elams are worth even more, but we'll have to see. They're doing really, really well. One of the most consistently placing teams, an average placement of 5.3. Meanwhile, Malibuca above them had an average placement of 12.17. And even Vico, Veno, Flixie in first had an average placement of 6.67. So they are the most consistent placement team, just not getting the Elams. Then we had CZB, Eclipse, and Nathan, the British boys, doing it from Outlaw, though, like over near Shiny. I know it hasn't been the most relevant POI so far. It really doesn't look like the best POI. I'm excited to see this team do so well. They're actually in first place for most of the tournament. It was unfortunately their last game being a 17th that really let them down. Then we had Della, Axe Force, and Bevies, a team of players you've heard a lot about but have been a little bit quiet for a while now. Thomas, Uppel, and Panzer, like I talked about. New trio going a new drop at the fields, did really well in 6th place overall. Then we had Swizzy, Queasy, and Focus. Again, no mustache. He was on a school trip. Focus filled in really well. Every time I watched them, they were doing great, but they were surprise cons yet again by the Frenchies, Shakos, Piros, and Plazzy, who ended up coming in last place. So Queasy at this point, just so sick of dealing with French people dropping on him. He does really, really well. Can win the tournament, went uncontested. You know, Queasy went quickly onto the timeline, onto Twitter, to complain about the French teams that keep dropping on him, which kind of, I think, is half the reason why they're doing it at this point. But Queasy's team put up a great performance. Wanted to make sure people didn't think that, oh man, they won twice with Mustache and then 7th with Focus. Focus must suck. No, Focus did really, really well. It's just they were contested. It's not even his real trio. So he filled Mustache's shoes really, really well. Super impressed by the way Focus played. Then we had Pix, Dam, and Damus, another Polish trio in 8th place out of Pump Powers. Well contested again by Teeny, getting in 8th place. Very impressive, who have now split up, by the way. I'll talk about that in a second. Then we have iDrop, Sky, and Scroll in 9th out of an uncontested Shiny Shaft. So finally got their drop unconned. Started really strong with a 13 Elam win, and unfortunately started to fall down the leaderboard after that. And then closing it out with our Italians with Darky in 10th. So looking like no crazy team swaps or drop spots on NA that I can see so far. But on EU, we have Tayson switching drops. So Tayson, Chris, and Chicho are sticking together after 2 not so great performances from uncontested Kappa Kappa. They're now switching their drop to try to lock down Crime City. They want to lock down Crime City and the Train, which is going to be very, very tough to see from Tayson. We saw Veno's team, the reigning FNCS champs, not be able to lock this down. So I hope Tayson's team can pull it off. We'll see how they go. You're probably thinking, Aussie, what does that mean for Chap Shark and Kiddo? Well, Chap Shark and Kiddo didn't do too hot today. They came 13th overall at 138 points. They did get an 8 Elam 3rd, but they really struggled out of Crime City. They did have Cringe's team taking the train, then rotating up on top of the mountain and really causing issues. It's not like they were getting the loot like Peterbot does. We're getting all of the loot in Crime City train around it, but That's why I point that out, because I don't think Tayson's going to be able to do it as well. We'll see. Maybe Tayson still has aura like that. Maybe people will give him the whole drop spot like Peterbot. And it is worth mentioning right now, Tourney is looking for either an entire trio as a solo, or he is looking for one with Skivvy. He says if you give him an uncontested drop spot, he'll win everything. He just can't get a drop spot locked down. I don't know what that means for Trulex. I'm not sure where Trulex will end up. At this point, I have a feeling maybe Chap Shark or Kiddo will actually split. They just have not been playing as well as what I think this trio would hope. They do have a decent drop spot. Now they're contested by Tayson. Maybe they try and split up, find a different trio, go a different drop spot. I'm not sure, but something needs to change. And now you have a few good players kind of looking around for trios. We'll have to see what happens. I have no evidence to point to this. They haven't said anything. There's nothing on the timeline. I'm just looking at players who aren't doing as well as what they would hope with a new trio that doesn't seem to have a lot of chemistry or playing together for a long time. And I'm thinking maybe something happens there. We'll see.